This is so long.
How long does it go?
Long. Well. Okay, do that whatever you want to cut.
Okay.
You can cut. Alright, we don't have to do that. It's pretty long. Everything really just have in the background. There, no, the intro takes. Ended up in the intro.
So go ahead and just
stop there. Or
move into the background or something. Well, that was interesting.
I hope you enjoyed that. This is Brada's Branded Thoughts, week 75, I believe. And we're doing things a little differently this week. We have John Orjias with us, and we're also recording this. So this is going to be an interesting mix-up because, John, you have a interesting profession yourself. You have an interesting career and also interesting hobbies. And you're also a music guy. So let's start with the career side of things. I just want to get our listeners familiar with who you are, what you do for a living. You are a chief software engineer. Am I establishing that correctly?
Yeah, you could basically say that. Chief network engineer, chief software engineer. I do contract work, and so it's a very diversified set of skills. I've been doing it for about 30 years, and so anything from Exchange servers, Microsoft Enterprise servers to, SQL servers and Cisco routers and you name it. And then also many coding languages as well, PHP, JavaScript, Java, and so forth.
You said you've been doing it for a long time. How long have you actually been with IT work? I mean, how did you get going and at what point in your life did you take an interest in it?
My parents bought me a Timex Sinclair 1000 computer for $99. It was a little 2K of RAM. Put in this, 2K.
Yeah.
A little tiny thing.
A little bit smaller than what we got.
And it was a piece of junk. I threw that thing in the trash can more times than I can speak. And every time I dig it out, it's like, why did I do that? And I persisted. And the way I learned was I started just reverse engineering the software that came with the computer. And that's how I learned how to code. And by the time that was when I was 12. By the time I was 15, I was actually doing computer work as a means of income. And so I pretty much have been self-employed about 95% of my life.
You consider yourself a geek?
Yeah.
Does your family consider you a geek?
Yeah.
Or do you take pride in being a geek? No, you don't?
I have no friends.
The paycheck looks nice though, right?
Oh yeah, the paycheck's pretty decent, but I cannot relate to anybody. Everybody's like bored with me. So
I understand. We all have our thing. Okay, so that's what you do for your career. Let's talk a little bit more along the hobby side of things. And I understand you kind of have a nice, from our discussions, you have a unique perspective on your hobbies because you're able to actually create some degree of income from your hobbies as well.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, not only with video production, but just everything you do that isn't kind of away from the IT work.
Well, it started as just a hobby on YouTube videos, and a lot of it was because when I was younger, my parents traveled a lot, and they took a lot of family videos, and so that helped me remember a lot of good experiences, trips to China and Jamaica and Hawaii and stuff like that, which as I grew older I would have forgotten had they not done that. And so I got into video because of that. I wanted to record those memories more than anything, and it just seemed like keeping them out on the cloud or somewhere that's free to store them, which YouTube is free compared to paying storage. And I throw them up on YouTube or Facebook. They're all kind of like my redundant storage. Yeah. But it slowly grew to where we started having Tiana do some of the cooking videos and stuff like that, and we get a referral kickback anytime somebody signs up for the food boxes. And so every one of those cooking videos, we didn't pay a dime for that food. And so it just grew from one project to the next project. And now I have a video project that I do that's making training apps for a Fortune 500 company. And so I throw that stuff together in my little spare time that I have. And so that is a nice little supplementary income. It doesn't require a lot of extra brain power.
and the cooking videos, that brings in basically just food, right? I mean,
yeah, free food.
How much free food since you've been doing it? Do you think if you had to estimate a total dollar amount?
I've actually figured this up.
Okay,
right now we have about $500 credit still waiting to be spent. Since the inception of starting to do it, we probably had about $2,500 worth of free food. So you can't bat an eye at $2,500 worth of free food.
And you enjoy doing the video side of things, so that's the best line of work. Something, do something you enjoy. A lot of people do something they enjoy. They don't get paid for it. A lot of people do something that they get paid for and they don't enjoy it. So when you can mix those two together and be successful, that's certainly a high asset to have. Talk a little bit about the Johnny O Show. How did that start? Where'd you get the name? Just explain what it is overall.
The name is interesting. I used to do, when I was a teenager, I was doing tile setting with my brother, and he was part of a company called Call West Tile and Carpet. And him and another guy were business partners. And I was terrible at tile setting. It was not my thing.
Yeah.
But I did it. Anyway, I just remember all the time working in the, these really tall houses up in Telluride, and I could hear, not my brother, but the other guy, he would be saying, "The Johnny O Show, let's see what's going on over at the Johnny O Show," whenever he was coming up to check on my work, which usually sucked. But I think nepotism is what kept me in that job for a while.
How long did you do that for?
About a year and a half, and I was pretty well done.
Okay.
I couldn't stand it,
Yeah.
but I tried.
Did it pay well?
Well, actually, I guess it wasn't bad. It was, at that time, that was back in like 89 and 90, and it was paying $10-12 an hour. So I guess that's pretty good for that time of, that time period. So I didn't know what I was doing.
What caused you to go into to transform the Johnny O Show into basically a production of your life? I mean, how did that transition happen?
It's funny because when I actually started to do it, I thought, I wanted to get my keyboard and start doing training videos for how to use the keyboard and all that, and which I've made a couple, but not a lot.
Okay.
And
so that was kind of the start.
That was the initial reason, was I was going to make training videos on stuff.
Yeah.
And but I don't know. I'm not really a vlogger. But so the videos we do put are generally of like trips and stuff. I figure there's some value of it, like when we go to the Renaissance Festival or we try to show the sights and tell a little bit of what we're doing. So at least it's not just like a pointless vlog. At least if you wanted to go check out NASA or something like that, you get an idea of what the area is. And so
from a commoner, and I mean maybe that's not the right verbiage, but that you're getting it from a non what's the word I'm trying to think
not
of?
a paid promoter.
Yeah, you're not
I'm not
promoting.
Getting paid to brag about something.
Exactly.
It's like
you're able to get it from an unbiased perspective, and
either it sucks or it's good, and you want to check it out, or you don't want to check it out, and so that's kind of how I kept the flow of videos. Sometimes I have like what's kind of just a vlog, but and then of course I'm starting to do a lot with ham radio, and so I kind of got a new series, like Learn With Us series, because I don't really, it's like with Tiana with her cooking, and like me with the even when I start doing stuff with the Tyros and stuff like that, even though I've been playing a keyboard for many years, I don't want the videos to ever come across as if I'm an expert. I want to come across like I'm just an ordinary guy trying to figure this stuff out, and if I can, you can too.
Right.
Kind of vibe. So you can see the pitfalls I encounter, and
how to for dummies, basically.
Yeah. Taught by a dummy.
And the other dummies in the family.
Yeah.
Okay. ham radio. You mentioned that. That's a very, you kind of given me a synopsis of what that is. Obviously, if you're watching this on the Johnny O Show, you may know about what ham radio is because maybe you're more of a geek than I am. But tell our listeners for Brada's Branded Thoughts what ham radio is and why that's become such a hobby for you.
Robin and a few of the friends and stuff think I'm nuts because like I can pick up a phone and do that. What's the big deal? Mm-hmm. I lost a lot of my joy with technology as the years went. When I started with the computer back when I was 12, like I say, it was 2K of RAM and it was a piece of junk and you had to struggle to keep that thing working, but it was fun. It was like you were really learning something and doing something special. Mm-hmm. Now when they come out with a new phone or a new computer, they're just appliances. They're no more exciting than buying a new toaster to me. Mm-hmm. And there's no joy in that. There's nothing exciting. And even though ham is very old school, it's technologies that I used to play with when I was a kid, like a lot of protocols like you would use on a regular dial-up modem, except you do it through the airwaves. But the idea that you can reach out and talk to somebody that is 9,000 miles away, and you're not going through a bunch of routers that you don't have any control of, that you don't maintain, that you have to rely on somebody else put there. You are literally doing that. The radio waves that left your house are the same radio waves that are hitting that guy. And there's just something kind of, I don't know if the right word for it is kind of romantic, I guess. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of like why somebody would sail as opposed to using a motorboat.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
there's
just
something authentic about it.
Yeah. It's you're the captain of the ship, so to speak.
Yeah.
And there's just so many techniques to ham radio and different strategies you can use in dealing with propagation and how you can bounce things. They even got where they can bounce off asteroid, you know, when they have the meteor showers, you can actually use different bands that are specific that work really well for bouncing off meteor showers.
Really? Okay.
You can do what's called earth to earth transmissions, where you actually use the moon as a satellite and you bounce your signal off the moon. So there's just so many cool little things that are really way out there that, you know.
Well, why would anybody want why would anybody want to play, you know, records on a record player, you know, on a turntable? I mean, right. It's the same principle.
Exactly. There's something real about it. There's something. It's just I can't put the right word to it, but that's basically, you nailed it on the head. The same reason, all those things. It's more than just being retro though. It's special. It's special.
Yes. Yeah, some of these things that are retro are still kind of lame. But
you mean like bell bottoms?
That would probably qualify. Okay, so ham radio. You've got the Johnny O Show and the cooking videos, which you seem to have been able to actually be successful as far as bringing in basically income.
Well, like I say, I do the training videos for that Fortune 500, which is actually a pretty decent chunk of income.
How long have you been doing that?
About a year and a half.
Okay. And then, of course, you do your IT work. Do you do any building websites for people? Is that something you do on the side? I know that's
not
probably
really
within your repertoire.
Oh yeah, it's something I can do. There's not enough money in it. Mm-hmm. It's all very time. Coding in general is very time consuming. Mm-hmm. And the issue with building a website for most people, they're the mom and pop and whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's a reason why there's template sites out now. Because to pay a web developer that's any good and for it to be worth their time, you're talking $50-$60 an hour.
Yeah.
And you could easily have, 10 hours of work is actually very little content. Coding, writing stuff, it's a very slow process.
Yeah. And
it costs a lot of money.
Right.
So it's like, unless you have a big client that's willing to pay, there's just not money in it.
Yeah, gotta go where the dollars are.
Yeah.
you're also a musician. I mean, and we're gonna have during our middle break, we're gonna have original song from you. Give us a little bit of a breakdown of your musical background. I'm assuming it's something that you took an interest in at a young age, singing, songwriting. You play the keyboard, you play the guitar.
I used to play the guitar. I can kind of pick at the guitar now. I never really got proficient at it because I was too much of a wimp with getting calluses on my fingers.
Okay.
But I've also done the clarinet and trumpet, but I ended up steering towards the keyboard or the piano, mainly because I'm lazy. Those are actually, to me, the guitar, the violin, trumpet's a pretty easy instrument to play. Not a whole lot to do there. I mean, I'm not trying to bash anybody doing a trumpet,
right.
but I'm saying like a guitar. You see these guys play classical. There's a skill there that's just a lot. I mean, piano, it's like you just got to know where the keys are and how to hit them soft and hard. And
yeah, listen to ZZ Top.
Yeah,
Van Halen, or yeah.
So, but yeah, basically, I started when I was little. My mom heard me always playing with the organ, and so she thought she'd have me do piano lessons, which I actually hated. But I started playing by ear. And I didn't realize at the time, probably one of the reasons I hate it so much is because they wanted you to read music, and I had terrible vision.
Okay.
And that's one reason I don't read. But at that time, they didn't really know what was wrong, and I didn't know it was bad vision until, I got older and wiser because, you lived with it.
Yeah,
it was just bad enough to be a problem, but not bad enough that I couldn't get around.
And you're accustomed to it.
Yeah, I was accustomed to it. But basically, I remember listening to an artist named, I'm probably saying it wrong, Jean-Michel Jarre, whatever. He's from France. It was techno before techno even existed. 1974 techno.
Yeah.
Not disco. It was all computer generated sound. And he's actually still composing music to this day, although I don't like his newer stuff. But I fell in love with that. And so I actually one of my ambitions when I started with the computer was, I was learning it because it was there, but I wanted to make computer music. That's what we called it back then in, the 70s, computer music.
Techno.
Yeah. But I wanted to, and it's like one of these days I wanted to. So it's like I kept along with the computer industry because I always had this dream of like going to be able to do something with my music.
So that was kind of the fuel for that fire.
Yeah. And then my computer became my income.
Right.
But yeah, I basically that's where that path laid, and then I've always been dabbling with keyboards and stuff. My great grandfather though would be rolling in his grave because I'm really not all that good, and for as many years as I'm doing it, I should be excellent. But he was literally, his name was Hans Albert, and it was 1910. He was like the Justin Bieber of his time.
Really?
He was crazier than about. He was. I mean, there's newspaper articles you can look up. There's newspaper articles where he was described as having long red hair. I don't know where that ended up in our hair. Long red hair, wearing a trench coat or something like that. Long beard, and one of the articles was in Omaha. He apparently got into a fight with 4 of the hotel guests where he was performing. But they did not arrest him and they did not press charges because everybody still wanted to see his concert. And if they would have done so, then he wouldn't have been able to do his concert. So that way he was...
This was in Vegas?
No, it was in Omaha.
Oh, Omaha.
Back, around 1910.
Okay.
But also there's many newspaper articles where it says Hans Albert died as an April Fool's joke, and everybody's freaking out. And it's like, contrary to the news, Hans Albert hasn't died. Same guy. He was in the gossip news. He was
interesting.
Yeah, his love, Grace Hatzel, basically ran away to meet him. And at one point in time, she ran away from home over here in Ottumwa, Iowa.
Okay.
She ran away to meet him in Colorado. I don't remember. I can't think of the city right now. But Hatzel, her father was a U.S. Marshal. Did not like the idea of her daughter running off with a musician. So he threw him in an insane asylum and said he wasn't going to let him out. He actually had to say. Yeah. Of course, back then you could do anything you wanted.
Right.
He wasn't going to let him out unless they annulled the wedding. and he never saw
Really?
Grace Hatzel again.
Wow. Okay.
Well, that lasted just to get him out. Of course, later they got married. They got remarried and had children, and here I am.
Wow.
But he was the third in his day. He played for the Chicago Philharmonic. He played for he was the concertmeister for an emperor over in Europe. I don't remember the name. I got it all written down.
Yeah.
He was big in his day. He was considered at that time. He was the world's third greatest violinist.
Wow.
He owned a Stradivarius violin.
So you've got it in your blood.
I got it in my blood, but he'd roll in his grave because I'm not using it.
Violin? Did you ever try it?
I tried it. I want to someday do something with it, but I
did two days of violin class in elementary school and I quit. I tried to be an orchestra person and I just couldn't do it. I also tried a guitar and I failed at that. The only thing I was ever good at was hot cross buns on the recorder. Hot cross buns, 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. I was good at that, but musical talent has not been my specialty. Okay, well, it's interesting. So tell us a little bit before we get into our break here, our middle break, and we're going to play this song. Tell us a little bit about yesterday. How did that come about? Where did you get the idea for it lyrically?
Okay, I'll try not to tear up. That I'm actually really proud of that. It is something I just did on the keyboards. It's not necessarily the best mix. The actual lyrics, surprisingly, took me about 5 minutes to write. They just happened. And then it took about another 120 hours to figure out how to put those lyrics to the music and get it all mixed. Mm-hmm. So I had about 125 hours into making this. Okay.
Is that
that's a long time.
Is that a long time for a song?
Yeah. I think it's a very long time.
No, probably felt long.
But I was going through my divorce from my first marriage, and my daughter, I guess the word is estranged, not because of me and my daughter having bad feelings towards each other. She was only 7. But it was a pretty hostile divorce.
Sure.
And so my daughter was put through a lot. And so this song was a promise. At one time during all this, I just said, Britton, it's going to be all right. I promise you everything's going to be all right. And, we're going to be okay. We're going to get through this, and you're going to grow up and you're going to be okay. And so you'll hear that. I'll try not to tear up a little, but you'll hear that in the closing lyrics of the song. That's the promise that I said I was going to keep.
Well, let's get right into it then. That's a good place to stop. Here's Yesterday from John Orjias. We'll be back. Brada's Branded Thoughts. We'll be back right after this, the second half.
It seemed like just yesterday I held you in my arms. It seemed like just yesterday I kept you safe from harm. And your little hand in mine, so precious and so fine. It seems like just yesterday. Where has the time gone? It seems like just yesterday I sang you to sleep. It seems like just yesterday we made a little cast of your feet. And you're growing up so fast. Where has the time gone? How I wish I could get it back. Now all I have is this song. like just yesterday I held you in my arms. It seems like just yesterday. Where has the time gone? And as I see the memories unfold before my eyes, I realize how much has passed me by. And I see you growing up to be such a fine young girl. You're gonna take on the world, and you're gonna be alright. Though I can't always hold you tight, you'll always be my little girl. It seems like just yesterday I sang you to sleep. It seems like just yesterday, a promise I made, I intend to keep.
All right, that's Yesterday from John Orjias here on Brada's Branded Thoughts, week 75. So, really heartfelt song, and you told us a little bit about how that came about, and obviously it still means a lot to you today. How did you, I don't want to spend too much time kind of, put too much weight on you as far as explaining your life and all these different ties, but before we go on to a different subject, we will touch a little bit on our sports and on Iowa, and also on some different things that have been happening recently in this country, but specifically about that song and just those difficult times. How did you manage to get through those difficult times with Britain? Of course, we know you have a great relationship with Britain now, and it's you got through all that. How did you get through that? Just emotionally and with her too.
It was a hard time, and I don't mind talking about this. I am bipolar, and I pretty much at the time I wasn't diagnosed as bipolar, and because of that, they had me on medication I shouldn't have been on. Now that's not an excuse. I'm just saying it definitely didn't help.
Right.
Basically, they put me on Effexor, and they just come bumping it up and bumping it up and bumping it up, saying I just need to take more. The problem with putting somebody that's bipolar on an antidepressant is the whole issue with bipolar is you can be depressed one moment and you can be manic another.
Mm-hmm.
If you give somebody that is already manic antidepressants, you just make them more manic.
Mm-hmm.
And the more manic one gets, the more aggressive, the more delusional, the more arrogant. Everybody handles it differently, but some people call it a God complex, and I never felt like I was a god or anything like that, but I had no tolerance for anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a mean, nasty person.
Yeah.
And so my ex left for good reason. Mm-hmm. So but that was the wake up. It was one day I had Britain sitting in my lap and we were watching cartoons. The next day literally, I didn't see it coming. The next day, she was gone.
Right.
And then it was the custody battle after that.
Yeah. So help you get through all that.
Just a lot of knowing that I didn't want to lose my daughter. And so a lot of determination, a lot of therapy, and again, back to a lot of determination. And my ex was making me jump through hoops, and actually it was good. You know, it's, you know, you're looking at alcoholic or a drug addict or any of those kind of people. If you have family that is enabling them, they aren't going to get better.
Yeah.
But if you pull out all the stops and you say, I don't know if that's the right phrase, but I mean, if you basically say, we're done, you are going to lose the most important thing in your life unless you make a change. That has a huge impact.
Yeah.
And that motivation, like I say, it was lots of therapy, a lot of work. I had literally crashed. I guess the best way to describe it is crashed so hard. The effects had really messed up my mind as well. I had written a software application called Cash Crusader, and it literally became a huge cash cow. I had close to 6,000 websites running the software. I was selling, 3 to 5 copies a day at, anywhere in its heyday, $300 a pop. And I would sit and code when I was on the Effects because I was so manic. I would code 16 hours a day. I would work for like 6 and sleep 4, work 6, sleep 4. And I did that 7 days a week, nonstop. And I didn't care. I work a lot right now, and I want to cut back. And I'm trying to get my schedule more under control. But then I didn't want to cut back.
Yeah.
I
freight train.
I obsessed about it. And when I finally got off the Effectser, literally I could not code anymore. I weaned myself off the Effectser and I was done. I look back at this, several hundred thousands, maybe a millions of lines of code. I don't know. It was a huge application. And I looked at it, it's like, how did I ever do this? I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And it totally went out of my mind. But fortunately, that was so big of a product that it sustained me for the next 4 years while I was able to focus on
getting better. Yeah.
I was fortunate in that sense. I didn't have to worry about work.
Yeah. Well, that's sometimes, like you said, you need the most important things of you out of your life to realize, see the big picture, and be able to get the help. So that's really
You don't know what you got until it's
commendable.
gone.
That's certainly true. Yeah. Well, it's commendable and courageous on your part to come out and tell that story. I do want to touch on a couple different things before we go. This is kind of a different type of episode of Brad's Branded Thoughts. Normally, it's my brother Alex and me bantering about Iowa Hawkeye sports and whatnot. And I do want to talk briefly about Iowa. Before we get to that, I'll talk about more of a. Again, I don't want to have this almost a dark podcast where it's just a bunch of tears and whatnot. But let's talk a little bit about what happened down in Florida this past month with the shooting down there. 17 students killed. And I don't want to make this. Of course, I don't want to keep. I don't want to, give any line to a political conversation or debate with our listeners, or even religious. I want to talk about from a purely a standpoint of what happened, and just your thoughts on. There's so many different opinions about why it happened, and why these things are continuing to happen. Of course, we know from a religious standpoint or biblical standpoint why these things are happening, but purely from a specific event and analyzing it, people are really looking at gun control and things like that. Is there any way really to try to cope with this, or as the school systems try to become more secure and safer for students? Is there anything that they can really be done, or is it just a bigger problem than meets the eye? Do you think?
I think it's society. I think laws obviously have to change. I mean, the fact that an 18-year-old can't buy alcohol but can buy an assault rifle is an issue. But then you'll see plenty of memes where they'll say, back when I was in high school, maybe pickups with rifles in the backs, and hanging in their trucks, and no one was ever shot. That is valid. That's true. But the thing is yes, it's the people that have changed, but it's still the weapons are there easily for them to obtain.
Yeah.
So it's the problem is society, but something needs to change. Something needs to give. Realistically, though, can gun control fix it? The issue is a criminal. Locks only keep honest people out.
Yeah.
So it's
and that's why, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this simply because I think we both agree that
it's like
there's nothing that's going to completely solve it from a human standpoint,
right?
But it's just sad to see. Obviously, I've got family down there actually in Sarasota, Florida, and a friend of mine down there she's got several kids in the school system. They had their high school put on lockdown. They actually didn't send kids to school part of the week. This was the week after the shooting because there was an anonymous email sent from overseas to the high school administration that a shooter or a bomber, one of the two, I can't remember, was in the school and had tattoos on his arms, and they had to do an investigation on it. And you just wonder how many of these are happening.
Right.
How many threats? I mean, of course, there have been always, I shouldn't say always, but for a long time there have been bomb threats and gun threats in the school system. But I'm wondering, now more happening, I'm wondering how many threats there actually are that we just don't hear about.
I'm sure there's a lot. I mean...
And I'm sure you're...
you can't... Yeah. The best way I can say that, when I worked for the airline for a bit there after... when I was going through all my...
You were a steward, right?
Yeah. After I was going through all the... my recovery, I was trying different careers just because I never did that. And when you've flown 700 flights in about 4 months, and there's some pretty hairy ones, and you ask the captain what happened, and they say it's best you don't know.
Yeah. No.
There's a lot of things that you don't hear about. Yeah. When you're actually there, you know what's happening. And so... yeah.
Well, I'm sure you're glad. We talked about you as a parent. You've got one child, one stepchild, but I'm sure you're extremely happy that you don't have a child in the school system now.
Yeah, you think back 10, 15 years ago, not even that long ago, people are like, "Oh, you're homeschooling your kid. You must be a freak." That's that's how homeschoolers. It's like now people are realizing I'm not sending my kid to school.
Yeah.
It's like you don't know, are they going to get the, what are they going to be taught? I mean, some of the things they're teaching in school today are just wackadoo, completely insane, and then you, with the issues with the violence and stuff going on in schools, why would you send your kid to?
What is the residual effect then? Do you think there will be a sharp, and of course we've had these shootings the last couple of years, will there be a downward trend as far as children being sent to public schools? Do you think there will be an increase in homeschooling?
I don't think
private schooling?
I don't think it's going to change much, because you have the issue of why do schools a lot of times not send the kids home? Because their parents aren't home, and so they have to keep them there. Like in bad weather or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They hesitate to send kids from school early because there may not be anybody at home to take care of the kids. So sometimes the
problem is bigger than just
there's a lot of parents that legitimately can't. They're struggling just to get by, and there's a lot of parents that just aren't there.
Yeah. And
so because of that, homeschool's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to homeschool your kid.
Yeah.
And actually do it right. Now, our kids were actually a public school. We did K-12, which was excruciatingly painful. That was a really hard school. K-12 out of Arizona when we were in Arizona. But then we're doing American school now. But it's an actual school where there's teachers that grade their stuff. And so it's actually a public school that is online.
Without sending your child
it's a correspondence school.
Public school.
So it's technically what we're doing is not homeschool. They actually have a real course. But still, they're doing it at home.
Yeah. Well, and again, I don't want to stay on this these dark subjects too long, but we'll be thinking about this Nicholas Cruz, and I don't want to give his name too much of a spotlight, but we continue to see this with not just schools. We've seen, I'm trying to think of the different settings. We've seen nightclub shootings. In fact, today we just had, I believe it was today, Central Michigan.
There was another shooting.
There was another shooting in Central Michigan. 2 people killed there. There was the other day, what was it, 3 days ago? I want to say down in Georgia, a teacher locked himself in a closet and shot. Didn't shoot anybody. Not sure. It sounded like, reading the report, it sounded like maybe he was trying to, I could be wrong, but it almost sounded like a liberal trying to prove a point because Trump wants teachers to have guns. Oh. So maybe he was trying to prove that teachers shouldn't have guns. So I'm just going to lock myself in a closet and start shooting off rounds. He wouldn't let any students in. I don't know what that was about. But the point is, people are crazy.
Right.
I mean, people are crazy. We had the shooting, I believe was it Virginia? Probably about a year ago with the congressman. You remember that? The baseball field?
Yeah.
So these things are happening all the time. And there's so many different things, but mental illness is obviously an issue as well.
Well, that's why I don't have a problem talking about my bipolar, because anybody that thinks they don't have a mental illness is just kidding themselves.
Yeah, everybody's got some degree of mental illness. I totally agree with that. But it's largely not being treated. Most people aren't treated. Right. I mean, you know that. So, thoughts and prayers, and of course, many more thoughts and prayers to the ones that we don't hear about. The different things that are causing people anxiety in the school systems, but thoughts and prayers certainly to the victims and their families at the recent shootings down in Florida. So I do want to briefly highlight a couple things. It's been November, I believe it was middle of November since we had our last podcast. So it has been a long time. That's about 4 months since our last podcast, a little bit more. And a lot has happened. Iowa's basketball season's kind of taken a downward trend. I know you're not much of a sports guru yourself. We bond on over other things like Seinfeld, though.
Yes.
But no, Iowa's season ended yesterday. Obviously a down season. They lost to Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. We'll have another podcast with Alex Brada talking about that and reacting to the season. There have been rumors spiraling and circulating about Tyler Cook possibly transferring to Missouri, which would be a huge loss for Iowa, or possibly going to the NBA early. So we'll wait and see on that. He's kind of tried to diffuse some of those rumors. But bottom line, it's kind of a down season. And now it's February, so March, April, May, June, July, August, over 6 more months until college sports are back. So I know this doesn't really matter to you, but I'm going to be slipping into a deep depression pretty soon because it's cold still.
Yeah.
There's no more college sports. So summer better come quickly or I'm going to lose it. Anything you want to comment on in particular? Obviously, you stay busy with your computer work. We've talked extensively about that. Anything that you don't think we touched on that you want to highlight or put a plug in for the Johnny O Show?
Yeah, check out my channel, The Johnny O Show, on YouTube. And you can also find it at thejohnnyoshow.com, Facebook / The Johnny O Show, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Twitter, The Johnny O Show. So but make sure to put the in the beginning of it.
Is there a
I think there's a Johnny Show, and then there's a so put the Johnny O Show. And
just as I do want to mention this,
no spaces.
Okay, no spaces. The and it's JOHNNY.
J-O-N-Y.
Okay.
Yes, 2 N's.
Not JONNY or JONI or something stupid like that. Okay, do want to mention too. Hadn't had an opportunity to talk about this yet on the podcast because we haven't had a podcast. We will be launching a YouTube channel for Brada's Brandon Thoughts coming up here very soon. So the older podcasts, they won't be retroactive. So the older podcasts will not appear on there, but we will have the newer podcasts on there. We'll continue to upload those to SoundCloud as well. But I mean, you're a YouTube guru. You know that it's much handier for someone to have a YouTube channel to go to, and I think SoundCloud is.
There's a lot of podcasts going to YouTube.
Yes,
they just have a placeholder, no video, just a placeholder. But
well, I feel like.
But you can do video.
Yeah? What do you mean?
You could have video on your. Well, I guess.
Then I gotta get comfortable in front of the camera. I'm so much more comfortable behind a mic where nobody can see my face. When I used to work at KFJB and Kicks, my news director would be in the corner, and I'd be because he'd come in and sit in the corner of the studio, the main studio for the AM station, and I'd be behind the soundboard, and have all the computers in front of me, and I'd send it over to him. And I would never say this if I still worked for them, and I'm not trashing them by any means. But if there was a guest that we had on that day that wasn't the most exciting of guests, he would, and if they weren't there yet, of course, he would put in a plug for the show, preview the show, and he'd try to act all happy about it. We're having, I'm not going to name a real person that we had on the show, but, we're having the spokesman for the area community watch programs on the show today, and he would be making these disgusting faces, and just like as soon as his mic went off, it was great. And I love being able to have that part of me just loves being able to have that barrier where I can make facial expressions that no one see.
Right.
Because I'm very expressive with my face, and I got to be on my best behavior now when I'm if I've got cameras in front of me. So,
yeah,
but anyways, I like how we kind of tied in the Johnny O Show with Brada's Branded Thoughts, and we'll continue to kind of put plugs in for each other along those lines. What do you think about? Do you think for podcast? You said you never really got into podcasting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about doing a Johnny O Show podcast?
I don't know. I
just too much to, on top of everything else.
Yeah. And there's something about with me.
You could do it.
I need that visual stimulus.
You and I are different.
Yeah, it's like
mine's all audio, yours is all video.
I need that visual. I just there's some ham podcasts that I'll try to listen to, and it's like a lot of it too is like I might want to skip forward and hear something, and then I want to go back, and it's real hard to know. Where was it in the video? I didn't look at the timestamp because there's no changing video. And so I can't just go back and figure out where, but like if it was a recorded video, it's like, oh yeah, it was back and I can see the person moving and know where. So I kind of like, I'm video. I like video.
That is the opposite of me because I work, I have a couple different lines of work myself. And when I'm working, I'll listen to podcasts on podcasts, audio. And I'll watch TV here and there. And of course I watch sports, but, I can listen to the radio all day, and AM radio. That's sad because I'm 22 years old. I shouldn't be liking AM radio, but I do. And hey, it's a difference in personalities and perceptions of entertainment and whatnot. So, but I like how we did this today, and this is our 75th show. So not been, of course, your volume of episodes has been much higher than ours. And you've been doing. How long have you been doing the Johnny O Show? How long is it? When did it first launch?
2000. Technically, 2008 was when I put up the video for Britain, but I didn't actually start doing videos until 2014. Okay,
2014. So not as old. I think I want to say week one of Brada's Branded Thoughts was. By the way, see, here's my ADHD coming in. I don't know if I really have ADHD, but anyways.
He has ADHD.
Have you heard of VO? VEOH? You've not heard of VO?
VEOH?
Yeah, before we go here, I want to just see if you've seen this website before. And this is a good opportunity because my brother and I, Alex and I, we've gotten a huge kick out of this. You've never seen this?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Is it like a YouTube wannabe?
I'm not real sure. And that would be something to maybe research. Oops. But anyways, watch movies online for free. I'm not endorsing this company. Okay, it's an internet television company based in San Diego. Allows users to find and watch major studio content, independent productions, and user-generated material.
Oh, okay.
Subsidiary of Israeli startup Calypso. Have you heard of that before? Similar to Metacafe. I don't know if you've heard of that, or Daily Motion.
I've heard of Daily Motion.
Anyways, my point in saying this is our week 1 podcast of Brada's Branded Thoughts was somehow uploaded to VO. And I'm trying to figure out how that happens.
So
Maybe you could tell me.
Somebody downloaded it and then uploaded it?
Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? I'm just curious. Like, why would you do that? Now, I'm not bashing my own podcast. I will tell you that I'm not bashing my own podcast. But
people have done it with my videos. There's one, I think you saw it, the one where Lulu we're running around in the snow, and they'll take and.
Well, that was a cool video though.
It wasn't that great, although somebody did buy it for $250. But
I should have sold that podcast.
I saw people upload the video and invert it backwards so it wouldn't get dinged on the copyright detection.
Okay.
And I don't know why they do it, because it's like they put up on their page and they only had like 18 views on it. So it's like, it's not like it was doing them any good to have it there.
Look at this. This is week 1 of it. I know everybody can't see this on
how many hits has it got?
24 on VO, because literally somebody came on.
It has video? Did you have video on that one?
No, it's literally, they made it into a video. It's just my picture, I think.
It's just,
I think, with the audio in the background. But what's weird is the users. Yeah, that's literally the user's name is Brada's Branded Thoughts. So why would you? I don't understand that. I don't understand that at all.
You sure you just didn't forget it?
I did it in my sleep or something. No, I just was. I don't have a problem with it. I mean,
it is kind of odd.
It's just odd, and it only got 24 views.
Maybe they figured, you're going to go somewhere someday, and
they haven't uploaded one since.
They said, this guy sucks.
We have said ever since week 1 that our best podcast, 75 podcasts now, we have said our best podcast was week 1. That's probably a bad thing that we're starting high and going low.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Well, it was nice. Thanks for having us on the Johnny O Show, and
on the Johnny O Show.
Yeah. Isn't this the Johnny O Show?
Oh, I thought this was.
Oh yeah, it's Brada's Branded Thoughts. We're mixing the two together. But anyways, no, thank you for being on.
Thank you for being on my show.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for being on my show.
Thank you for interviewing me on my show.
Yes, that's right. But no, thank you for being on Brada's Branded Thoughts, week 75. We will be back week 76, hopefully soon. We'll talk a little bit about March Madness, which is coming up here as well. And John, thanks for sharing your stories and kind of getting acquainted with our listeners. And they were able to get acquainted with you. We'll do it again soon.
All right.
For John, I'm Cory. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Good night, all. Yeah, good night, all.
Well, make sure you put that in. Make sure you leave that in.
I will.
Tiana.
I think that was pretty good.
Yeah. All right. I think we probably ran about an hour, right? Maybe a little less.